Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Scoggins, how are you, man?
What's up, Kent Lapp?
How are you?
Buddy,
It's been way too long.
I am so glad to be here. I love your show.
Thank you.
And it makes me happy that we get to have this conversation.
Oh, it makes me thrilled. I mean, we haven't seen each other in, a couple years probably. I think it was Seth Mosley that was the connection, right?
That's right. And I remember, like, you meet a lot of people here and there, but, like, I was like, that dude, that is a quality guy.
Oh, wow.
And I remember we had lunch once.
Yeah, we did.
And it was awesome. It was great conversation. I think it lasted like 2.5 hours.
Yes.
It was way too long for strangers,
right?
You know? And then I haven't seen you since.
I know. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, I mean, how have you been? What have you gotten into recently? I know back in when we met, man, you were into multiple things.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too deep on that because I kind of want to backtrack and go back to your story. But how have you been in the last couple years?
I've been great. Thanks for asking. It's been a wild ride, very much like you. You have the skill set, and it pulls you over here and it pulls you over here. So when we first met, I was very much in music.
Yeah.
I have a long history in entertainment and music production and some other creative things in that regard. But it moved me previous to even us meeting, but it's been a 10-year kind of journey from music over into coaching and to helping writing, speaking.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a singer. You've sang for the Pope. You have a Grammy.
Yes.
Your sister Paige, singer.
Yeah, Jennifer Page.
Jennifer Page, singer. Just the two of you, right? Two of you
just
siblings.
the two of us. Yeah.
Tragically lost your parents 2008, 18 days apart, right? Or
14.
14 days
14
apart,
days.
2008, correct? Ish?
True, yes.
Unrelated deaths.
Dude, I'm surprised you know that, but yeah, it was tragic and defining in so many regards. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and we had Christmas and everything was great. And a month later, they were both gone. You know, it was a very, very difficult year for us. And gosh, it brought a level of compassion and empathy that I don't think I could have gotten another way. Hardest time of our life, and also the greatest time of our life because we had our first kid, you know?
Wow.
So
how soon after their death was your child born?
Like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, okay.
Which was such an insult to me at the time, you know, grappling with God over the grief of that. It's just like, gosh, if it could have just been 4 months later, if you were going to do this, if this was going to happen, couldn't this have happened later? Wouldn't that have been okay?
Yeah.
But, you know, hindsight, you look back and you go, you know what? Our steps are ordered.
Right.
You understand with time why it needed to be the way it was, but didn't make it easy. It was very hard.
How does something like that shape you? How I guess it could have different effects on different people. So how did it shape you?
That's a great question. You know, like everybody would say, you feel uncovered. You know, when your parents get removed, you're now in the world and you're alone in the world.
I haven't heard that before.
Oh, really?
No,
well, it was the most instant change is you're alone. Like that person who thought that you were the greatest thing that's ever been, and that person who had your back, like if the whole world turns against you, you can still go home, you know, then you're missing that place now. You don't have that place. And so it's awful because you're an orphan, you know, whether you're 13 or 30 or 57, you know, you're alone in the world. And that's a terrible thing. Granted, a lot of us are in that situation, so it's common to a lot of us, but it's horrible.
Yeah.
But the thing that I found that's awesome is that grief of any kind comes with a gift. There is a gift if you will look for it, and that's really what happened. My parents passed. My dad, who was brilliant, people would come to me and ask for my advice, and I'd be like, oh, you know what? You should go talk to my dad about so-and-so, blah, 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 business or life stuff. He was just so wise, and he just always knew how to fix things. Well, then, you know, he's gone, and all of a sudden, people are coming to me, and I found myself saying, you know, my dad would say so-and-so, my dad would blah, 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 and then all of a sudden, it's just like, no, that's just me.
Mm.
Like, that's just me.
Yeah.
So I feel
interesting.
like there was this thing that he cleared a path for me, and that terrible situation cleared a path for me to grow into who I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have done that if I had him to rely on. So I really want to say, for anybody out there who is going through it, man, my heart is so with that. It's a terrible thing. But look for the gift, because it is there. There is a gift.
I just can't imagine losing both parents. I lost my dad when I was 10, and I remember occasionally still crying myself to sleep when I was 15. You know, I mean, and that pain of losing a loved one, it's so sharp, and it's sharp for a long, long time, and it's still occasionally sharp.
Yeah, it should be too.
Yeah, and it should be. Yeah. I think that's you know, there was just a wonderful lady, older lady from church that one of my favorites, favorite people in church, honestly, from years ago. And she mentioned, time will heal and things. And I remember when she was saying that, I actually didn't really like it because I didn't want time to heal.
Right.
I didn't want to lose any of the memory. I didn't want to lose any of dad. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yes. And so, I mean, she was right. Time did heal, but I still feel like, obviously we haven't moved on, and I don't want to move on. You know what I mean? Like he's always going to be my father. He's not living anymore, but there's still there's always that connection. But
Absolutely.
I can't imagine losing both parents in such a short amount of time. And it was unrelated, correct? I mean,
it was unrelated.
Yeah.
My mom had been ill, but not to the point of death. We were still surprised by that. I do remember at Christmas wondering how many Christmases we had left, but I didn't think it was 0,
Right.
So, and then my dad passed, I really feel like just from grief. Like, I feel like his body just gave out. And that was so hard. But
Yeah.
he did tell me when he was in the hospital and we thought he would totally pull through, it would be fine. He was like, if Will has anything to do with this, I'm here.
Okay.
And I believed him.
Yeah.
I totally believed him.
Like resolve, like
He
just
was like,
the will
I'm here.
to live.
I'm here because,
Okay.
this kid is coming.
Yeah,
And your mom
I
had
see.
plans for this kid, and I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And, a week later he was gone. So,
Wow.
So it just, it all has order and form, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the time it was so hard.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You talking about your friend at church, not to name drop, but I'm about to drop a name.
Yeah.
I traveled with Beth Moore for 10 years as a part of her
I
worship team.
didn't know that.
Yeah. And
You sang?
Yes, I was a part of her worship team for 10 years. And during that time, she was so good because she was so brokenhearted for us. And she said the best thing I've ever heard around this. And she said, Chance, I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure she said it better than I will say this, but she said, Chance, you remember this. It's going to take a while, and don't hurry it up. She said, we grieve to the same degree that we loved.
Oh man.
And she's like, if it hurts, please let it hurt. If it hurts for a year, please let it hurt for a year, because we grieve to the same degree that we loved. And that really has given me permission. Now, here we are, 11, 12 years later, and I hurt.
Yes.
We're stumbling through it. We limp through it, and we're supposed to.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And that really was one thing that really helped me come to that resolve.
It's very helpful. I've not heard that either. I'm learning all kinds of new things already. We're barely gotten started.
If I just I'll just keep quoting other people.
Yeah, right. But you mentioned that there was a gift that came with it too. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what was the gift for you, maybe?
Well, for me, it was that realization that, I'm going to be frank here. I didn't understand my own power. I didn't understand my own wisdom. I thought of myself as a singer, a musician, and that was a very limiting label. Even in this city, we're here in Nashville, it was something that everybody aspired to. And I was at the top of my game, one of the top session singers in town, a very solid working producer. My name was out there. I was winning awards, but it was smaller than me. And I didn't know that until my parents were gone. And then I started filling that space in my own life that they had filled, and then filling that space in other people's lives. And then just also other things were going on that kind of pulled me over. Artists were coming to me in tears in our sessions, just about things that were unrelated to the work we were doing. And I was able to help,
Yes.
And so the gift was clarity.
Interesting.
Clarity, expansion.
Wow.
And I think, grief or not, that's available to any of us at any point. But that was the catalyst for me, just to realize that there's more to me than that label that I'd been wearing. And that really is so much of the work that I'm doing now. Music aside, grief aside, anything like that. It's just, we are limiting ourselves by these labels that we're wearing, and we don't even know it. So my whole passion for the last 10 years, very much born of this realization of my own self, is just that we're all walking around playing it small. We're meant to be bigger than we are, and we are inclined to play it safe, and to protect, and to be secure. We crave security so much, but that security that we crave is actually just, it's shackles. Shackles.
It sounds like you were close with both your mom and your dad. Had
Very
a
much.
great relationship with both.
Very much.
What were some of the, maybe some of the bigger things that they taught you or that you learned from them? If there was just one or two.
Oh my gosh, Kent.
That's a big question, obviously.
That's so good. It's so good. Well, so my father, gosh, there was so much, man. My dad was a risk taker.
Okay.
I'm Chance. He named me Chance. And
is that why?
He named me Chance. As a kid, I was made fun of with my name. It was totally like something to get, swirlied over.
Oh no.
Just because it was, very different, especially at that point. At this point, you'll hear some kids named Chance or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's at that point, it was a very uncommon name. And so people thought it was peculiar, and I was probably peculiar on top of that. So it just, it was just another thing to mock me over. And I was embarrassed because, I was different, and you just don't want to be other, at that age. So it was really cool. I remember one day my dad said, hey, when I was mad at him for my name, and we were talking about that. It's so dumb. But he said, hey, let me tell you why I named you Chance. He said, I wanted you to be reminded every single time that someone ever calls your name and addresses you, that you never get ahead in anything that matters in life if you're not willing to take a risk. Not love, not money, not faith, nothing. It all requires risk. And you won't succeed and you won't progress unless you're willing to risk. And if you are willing to risk, then you will. So It was just immediately took my name. I love my name. I think everybody should be named Chance.
Right.
Everyone should be named Chance so that we're reminded, because I'm reminded every day, to go out there and risk.
100%. I'm going to think about that, when your name pops up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even my name.
Yeah. So good, man. And my mom, there was a time that an adult, I'd auditioned for something, and I was good. I did a really good job, but I was passed over. And it was the politics or whatever, who knows, I don't know what it was. But I had done a good job. And at that point I thought, oh, you do a good job, then you move forward, right? You get it. If you did a great job, if you were the best one there, then you get the job. Right. But I didn't. And it was what?
Yeah.
Life is unfair. What? So someone in that context said something like, who do you think you are, to me? I guess I said something. I don't recall what I said, but they're like, who do you think you are, in a negative way? And then my mom, taking me back to the car, we're walking back, and she goes, it's a good question. Who do you think you are? She's like, that's the most important question you're ever going to ask yourself. Who do you think you are? Because you will do whatever you think you are. and that's as much as you'll do, and that's as little as you'll do, or you'll do more based on who you think you are, not who she thinks you are. So she was like, you can let that stop you. She didn't see you. She didn't get you. Is that okay? Are you done?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
How old were you at
Dude,
that point?
I was in 5th grade.
So, Lincoln, you're about to be in 5th grade, right? Or are you in 5th grade? About to be. So you're 10. So you were probably 10 or 11?
Yeah.
Oh,
my kid's
goodness.
age. I need to go home and say, who do you think you are?
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking too.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, your parents sound like they were exceptional
great.
parents.
They were exceptional and just messy. It wasn't like, it wasn't all perfect. Like they were both just messy, and they came from very messy backgrounds, but they were super cool. Like, just not, I've never known anybody like him, and everyone who knows them says the same thing.
Wow. What were their first names?
Norma.
Okay.
So just go there.
Yeah.
Norma and Butch.
Norma and Butch.
Butch and Norma.
Love it.
So my dad was an orphan. At 14, he was on the streets. Wow. Yeah. He was on the streets at 14, and my mom was, grew up in the South and just very Southern, churchy background. And they both, had to find their own way and lost things along, with all that. But they built something together that was just
my goodness.
So killer.
Where did your dad grow up when he was 14 on the streets? Where was he?
You hear different versions of this story, and I don't want to say definitively because I don't know, but I know that he was the youngest, and there were 7 kids, and the other kids were all literally in an orphanage. He was in an orphanage, then came home with his uncle and aunt. They kept him for a time, and then they died, and there was nowhere to go. And I hear that he hitchhiked at that point from Georgia to LA, where one of his brothers was. And so he hitchhiked alone to California, and then his brother ditched him, and he was, on the streets by himself.
His brother, who he finally got to in LA, ditched him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This man is accustomed to adversity.
Yes.
Strong.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How did he and your mom meet then?
I think it was a blind date. Like,
okay.
Yeah, they both had roommates. Well, yeah, I think his roommate was dating my mom's sister.
Okay.
My mom hated my dad, hated him when they first met. But he was so cocky. He had been through so much.
Oh,
He's like, I listen, in the end, you're with me.
I love that.
Totally.
I wish I could have met Butch. He sounds great.
He's so great.
Then were they into music, or is this okay?
Yeah,
so
very much.
Okay.
Like growing up, we didn't go on vacations. Like we didn't do any of the stuff that typical families did, but we went to every show. Like we went to every concert. So all those 80s acts that everybody loves, I saw them. I saw them twice. Like that's what we did as a family. And by the time that the reason Jennifer was so successful in her career, by the time that we were in 6th grade, we were singing out in clubs. My parents were taking us to clubs all over the Atlanta area, and we were just following any band. Hey, do you have an open mic, or will you open up your mic for these kids? And because we were children, it was just novel.
Yeah.
So people would say, "Oh, let the kids sing," but then we'd get up there and we'd rock it.
You could sing.
Yeah, we could do it. So we kind of got a following there. And by the time my sister was 18, she was on the road singing in a cover band. Went to LA. Recorded a song a lot of people know called Crush. It went number 1 in 14 countries, worldwide smash.
Whoa.
And so that was right after she moved to LA.
Okay.
She got there and just boom. So 19 years old, she's traveling the world. And
you said, and that was in the late 90s?
Late 90s, early 2000s when that happened.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, were your parents singers also, or they just love music?
They were terrible singers.
Really?
Yeah, not really good, but they did love to sing.
Okay.
So get them a cocktail. And,
So it's possible for kids to be excellent singers and their parents not.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's some
totally.
hope for our kids then, I guess.
Yes,
My
yes.
wife and I are awful singers
Good.
for sure.
Okay. It's all good.
Terrible
Make
singers.
a joyful noise.
Are you older than Jennifer?
A year and 4 months. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are close in age too.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
And she in town now? She's in
Yeah, she
Nashville?
moved here actually, before a few years before my parents passed, and that was just luck. Well, if that exists, it was providence. And then she moved here, and then we've been here together ever since.
Okay, that's nice. Do you ever see Journey in person? Concert?
Yes, I saw Journey.
Have you really?
Yes, I saw
Roxette?
them. Roxette. I saw.
You
Roxette.
saw Roxette?
Saw Roxette
Live in person.
My sister learned to sing by what's her name? She
From Roxette?
Yeah, she loved her. She loved her. So
I've been
much.
listening to a lot of Roxette the last
So
couple
good.
weeks.
That
Man.
was such a loss, wasn't that?
Oh,
loss
yeah,
that she's
yeah.
gone.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
That's
killer,
very
man.
cool.
Yeah, we saw everything. We went to the Victory Tour, the Michael Jackson.
Oh, man.
With his brothers. That was a hot ticket.
Wow.
Did that. Whitney Houston, her first big tour. Saw that. Mariah Carey. Just all the stuff. My first concert. I was in 4th grade. Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow, and then Air Supply right after that.
Oh, okay.
We've been to all the good ones and the bad ones.
You said Air Supply right after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to
Wow.
back, baby.
Wow. What was it about? What were your parents trying to do with taking you to concerts? Was it just because they loved it? You guys were their kids. You were tagging along, having a great time as a family? Or were they trying to direct you in a certain way or teach you a certain thing or give you certain experiences?
Man, I think that I'd love to give them credit for something more than this, but I think they just loved it. I think they just really loved it, and they wanted to expose us. I do know, because they said this often, they never thought of us as children. They thought of us as little adults. And so, you're not down there and we're up here, which at that time, any 80s babies out there know that children were over there. They weren't,
Sure.
It wasn't the family unit. It was the parents and the kids, So they were very different in that regard, probably because they were both,
Yeah.
their experience was such that hey, let's go break some rules together.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I really do. Now, forgive me because I don't know much about your music career.
Yeah.
Can we hear a little bit more about that?
Sure.
You said you were a session singer?
Yeah. So I came here to Nashville very sure I was going to be an artist very quick. And in fact, there's some interest, and I'd sing Christian music at that time. And so I came here thinking, okay, a record deal is going to happen. I'm going to be, some big deal pretty quickly. Very sure of that. Of course, life does not unfold the way that we plan it to be.
Yeah.
So I got here, and the opportunities that I thought were going to be there weren't there in that time. They came later, but it was by then I knew too much. So in the waiting, I was at Belmont University. And I was just, honing my craft and all that. I realized, because I knew some artists, and I hated their life. I'm not jealous for any of that. It's hard. It's a very hard life to be an artist. Yes, you get the glory and you get some money, and also you get all of the liability and all of the, it's just like being the CEO of a company. And it's there's a lot of pressure there that a lot of people don't see. So I realized I want to make music. I need to make music, but I don't need fame. And there are lots of ways to make money. So I don't want that liability. I love this too much, so that wasn't my road. It just, so people started asking me to come sing their demos. Okay. And that just naturally moved me into the session world, and I loved it. Okay. I loved give me 16 tracks and just let me kind of build something around this other person's vocal. I love that. Okay. That creativity. Nothing's there, and I get to build something. That was so killer.
So when you say people would hire you to sing their demo, that would be like a songwriter. Who is going to pay someone that maybe has a little better voice than they do to sing for a demo what they just wrote. Is that what that is?
Totally true.
Okay.
And then very often if you do that and you do a great job, then when the producer and the A&R people at the label choose the song, then then they may fall in love with whatever you created, and they'll say, "Hey, get that guy in here to actually sing on the record."
Okay.
So then you're singing background for the artist.
Oh, interesting.
But you sang the song before the artist did. That happened several times for me.
Yeah, fascinating. That's a whole world I don't know a lot about. And then when you say they gave you 16 tracks, you're a session artist.
Yeah.
What's going on with this?
Yeah, well, that's funny. When someone sings, it goes on to one track.
Mm-hmm.
And then, someone plays guitar, it's one track. Mm-hmm. But you layer things, and that's what makes something other than what you would hear from a live band. It's the difference in like a live band and Coldplay. It's all these layers of guitars and these layers of vocals. And that's how you get this experience that feels so epic, is that they're bringing more than just what you would perform in one time, So,
interesting. I'm embarrassed to say I did not know this.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to know.
Okay, so if you're a session, what's the term? Session musician?
Studio singer.
Studio singer?
Yeah.
Was your work then layering vocals, or you were layering vocals and instruments and all of the above?
So even if you can do lots of things in life, this is good for all things, not just music. Even if you can do many things, like to focus on one thing is a good thing. So I came in as a singer, and people liked me because I would come up with things that weren't supposed to be there. Typically you have the root, whatever the one is of a chord, and then you have the 3 and the 5, and that's what makes a chord. But I would maybe put stuff that wasn't necessarily supposed to be there. It wasn't like triad-y and moving the direction that everybody thought that it was supposed to. So I would come up with ideas that were off the beaten path, and people like that. So then they would call me in to arrange for groups, and then eventually that moved me into production.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Now, when you are, let's say someone gives you these 16 tracks and you're going to do your thing, are you mostly working with vocals at that point?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And were you adding instruments to that as well?
No, I didn't do that.
But you were tweaking some of the instruments, or the tweaking you're talking about had to do with vocals?
I only did vocals.
Okay.
And so there would be somebody that was like me, but that they did that with guitars, and somebody else who did that with keyboards,
okay.
And then you have a producer that's like the director of a film who's in charge of it all.
Yes.
And they're overseeing all this stuff, and they're making the choices with the talent. And then they put it all together, and then you have a record. Killer, man.
Yeah, I see.
Cool.
Interesting. That's fascinating. Any of those from some of that work in the past that were some of your favorites, or songs that we might know?
Oh, dude. Honestly, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Because one, I wouldn't want to insult anybody by not including them.
Yeah.
And two, honestly, man, I've grown, like I expanded beyond that music and beyond that, even that theology. And I'm kind of sad. I'm not down on CCM. I'm not down on country. Like, there are plenty of people who are, and I'm not that guy. I'm an optimist in all regards.
Yes.
But I've grown beyond it,
Okay, so you were specifically working in the Christian music genre?
And soundtracks for movies and commercials and whatever. But
Gotcha.
I was much more of a pop singer, so I didn't belong in country music. It just wasn't my thing.
Yep. And when you say you kind of have different thoughts now about the theology, are you referring to the Christian music?
Yes.
Popular Christian music genre?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Don't listen to a ton of Christian music. I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say that or not. I don't think it's like, there's some is better than others.
100%.
Coldplay, though, you mentioned layering with Coldplay.
Dude.
My wife loves Coldplay.
Yeah.
And when you listen to a Coldplay song, most of the Coldplay songs, in the evening, summer night, the sun's going down, and you're just in kind of and you listen to some Coldplay, you can really get it's pretty exceptional.
Dude.
It's pretty exceptional.
Awesome.
And so is it just the way that they layer? Is that what it is?
Well, there's significant talent there from the beginning. Like, you're just going to hear one vocal or one guitar pass, like the tone that they get is so killer. But when you start layering great on great on great on great, you know, it's just, it
That's what
feels
you get.
so good.
It's
feels
so
good.
rich. It feels like it has such a depth to it.
Yeah.
Like it can really like, I don't know, kind of it can almost like transform your mind to a different world or like level.
That's interesting. If you think about it, remind me of, just bring music back up later in this conversation, because when we get to talking about brain stuff and whatever, music is so, I think it's another draw for me, is that it opens up worlds. It really does open. It's a portal to different levels of ourself. Like it really, creativity is, you know?
Yes.
And music is, they say, the universal language. It's just, it makes you feel something if it's done well or if it's done poorly, you know?
Yes. Agreed. Now, are you still in music in any capacity now?
Dude, I love music, and yes, like there are certain people, if they call me, I'm going to show up, you know, and I have within the last month, you know?
Okay.
But I don't. I'm so much more passionate at this point. Like I grew up thinking like you can move people and you can move their hearts and you can move their spirits and you can help them through music. And now I recognize that, yes, absolutely. But I would, rather than encourage them or teach them or whatever, I'd rather unlock them, you know? So I'm so passionate about what I'm doing now that honestly, there was a time years ago when I was doing a lot of music and also coaching or also speaking, and running back and forth was, you know, not the best.
I feel like that's more of what you were doing the last time when we got to know each other.
Yep.
Does that sound about right?
Agreed.
You were more in music and doing coaching and things like that.
Totally doing
together.
both. And and you can't, like, I was double-minded. You know, my bandwidth was split, and it was a horrible place to be because, you know, you're not either. If you're trying to be both, you're not either. And and so again, for anybody out there who can do several things or who has several goals and several interests, like, please just choose one at a time. Life will bring all of it around. You can get to it all, but don't be sad to let something go. You know, I'm not sad at all that I've moved beyond it. I'm so thankful for all of it, but I've moved beyond it. And the thing is, and gosh, we were just totally getting there. Without even talking about it, but like, we're not what we do.
Yeah.
You know, we're not. Like, I was Chance, the gift that I carry, you know, I was Chance as a singer, I was Chance as a producer, and I'm Chance as a coach. And those may not be related. You know, they may not be related. Businesses, you could be this and this business and these businesses could be unrelated. But when you bring your gift to that business, there is a continuity. And really, our story is not about, oh, he did this, he did this, he did this. No, he was this.
Yes.
That's the story.
Yes.
You know, so that's what I'm out to build.
Yeah, I'd love to get into that. I think two thoughts there. One, that's interesting that you mentioned that, look, you can do it all, I guess, in a sense, but you don't need to do it all at once. That's instructive to me because I don't tend to think in those terms. I tend to think, I want to do this, plus this, plus this, plus this. And I do have a hard time kind of letting some things go and just focusing.
Is it exhausting?
Yeah, it's very exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
It is. Well, the brain's not wired to do that. The brain's not wired for that. Multitasking, you know, people say, oh, we laud it, how great it is. The brain is not wired for that. The brain is wired to rock a certain specific focus, you know, solve a specific problem. It's great at that. But if you introduce a question and a problem to solve, and then while you're solving that, you go, oh, and also, how about this over here? Just sidebar, here's another question, here's another thing. You know, then the brain freaks out, you know? And you're all over the place, and that's where overwhelm comes in, confusion, lack of focus, and shutdown. Like, honestly, that's when we just want to stop it all. That's when people get into numbing. That's when people just check out because a confused mind says no 100% of the time. It's just like a computer. It's a supercomputer.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain will say no. So it's so much better. Like, honestly, friends, oh gosh, I hope somebody out there is struggling with this and we can help them today. If you go, I don't know if I should this or if I should this. Listen, you're not choosing for life. You're not saying no to anything, but it's just for right now. This is the more right thing. And I'm going to focus on that until that is the wrong thing to focus on. And then maybe I'll go and do this, you know?
Yeah. That can be hard though. That can be hard because you feel like you're like having to reinvent yourself, or you feel like you should be able to do it all, or you feel like, you know, you should be able to keep this going and do this and do that. You know, that can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you're going to be remembered for who you are or were, maybe, as opposed to what you did. Is that how you phrase that?
Dude, we are not what we do. We are who we are.
We are not what we do. We are who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's really
I'm serious.
key.
Even just, we've talked about my mom and my dad. I didn't talk about the businesses he built.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was one of the top construction, builders, commercial builders in Atlanta. We didn't talk about that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're moved by what he left. I'm so glad now that we talked about that. The essence of who he is all that anybody cares about.
Yeah.
The world moves on in the doing.
Yep.
We're so focused because we think if we do this and this and this and this, then we matter a lot.
Yes.
Dude, it's wrong, incorrect.
Yeah.
If we can access that God-given divine gift that God placed in us as he formed us, and we can name it and we can know it. I am here to be this force. Then we can be that over here. And we can be that over here in all the businesses and all the journey, or we can I could torture myself. And I did in that transition, letting go of music. It was my identity, man. I like my whole life, everything. And I was at the top of my game. So to let it go, to be at the bottom level of something, very, very difficult for my ego.
Yes.
But then when you realize, when you come to the realization, it is not about the thing that I'm doing. It's about the person I'm being, the gift I'm being,
Yes.
That's my mission. You're not here to build these businesses. You're here to impart things to these people.
Yeah.
To lead them.
Yes.
To inspire them, to instruct them. And you'll do that in the context of business.
Yes.
One at a time.
Yeah, that really resonates, man. You wouldn't have known this, but I went back into the family company April of 19 because it was having some very significant problems. And we wound up actually filing for bankruptcy in February and March of this year. So it was too little too late. Wasn't able to save it. But there was, and this is a little personal, but the last September of 19, I went to the hospital thinking that I was not coming back. I actually thought it was it. It was going to end that night.
Wow.
And what's kind of stood out to me when I really genuinely thought I was dying, and I'm not one for drama. So, it was not like, this has never happened before. Will probably never, I don't know, it may never happen again. But no, I genuinely thought that was going to be it. And, because I really thought I was having a heart attack. But what stood out to me was that like you're going to be remembered for what you loved. You know what I mean? Like Dad loved to sit outside on a Saturday and drink kombucha and read a book while we played. You know what I mean? Just
That's
weird
awesome,
little
man.
random things like that.
Totally.
Like Dad loved to
bro.
listen to, X type of music on the car, or, those types of things. Like he always had an espresso on the way to work, or he loved to hug us, or like those types of things. Like you're going to be remembered for what you loved.
Yes.
Not so much for, what you did or your accomplishments. And then the other thing that really stood out to me was it was kind of weird that this is like so vivid and for such a false alarm, but was just the idea that life is basically the sum of little moments. Like there's no one big thing. There's not even a couple of big things that makes it like, it's just the sum of the little moments. And so that I kind of walked away from that with new appreciation for enjoying the little moments, because at the end of the day, that's
Yeah.
actually what life is.
It really
It's some of
is.
those little moments.
Right. And so if we could all just get that and be okay with that, man, if we could get that and be okay with that versus the resume is important. I mean, you and I both want a resume, and I'm not dogging that at all. I want to do big stuff, but within the context of knowing that none of that stuff really, really matters.
Yeah.
Unless it's a catalyst for me to get to be something for those people, or to release more of what I'm here to give on this earth. You know, if we could let go of that, if we could detach from the meaning that we attach to accomplishing, it means I matter. What if I just matter and then I also go and do these things?
Yes.
Versus I have to do these
Yes.
things and therefore I matter.
That's super key. It's super key. And it's not like, potato, you know what I
Right.
mean? 6 one way and half a dozen
No.
another. It's very, very different.
It is
I mean,
very
the two
different.
sides of that coin have very drastic different
It
outcomes.
seems so similar, but it's totally not.
Yeah.
And so what I find in my practice is that people don't know. They don't know who they're here to be. And without knowing that, they're filling up their space and their time with doing that doesn't matter.
Yeah. We need to talk more about that, because you mentioned the identity thing earlier. And one of I'd never experienced this either like I had until now, but in April, you know, the companies were shut down in mid-February and March 2nd. And then there was a couple weeks there, it was almost a relief, because it had been so hard for a year, and then we filed bankruptcy, and there was almost a sense of relief there. But then April was really weird, because, man, I went through a stretch there for a few weeks in April where I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. It felt like you were just free falling a little bit. Like, who even am I? What am I to even be doing? Because I'm used to having this kind of reputation, or this is who I am. I'm a business guy. And all of a sudden that's gone. I don't feel a compelling desire to go start another business. Then who in the world am I right now?
So
That can be
good, man.
terrifying.
Where did that lead you?
To where I am now, which is I still don't know.
Bro, I'm so glad we're talking. So glad we're talking. Yeah, because when you're successful at something, you know, when you are known to be a successful businessman, I come in and I fix broken things, and I see something that wasn't there and I build it. And then I make people rich and I get rich, and, you know, that's who I am. And all the guys high five.
Yeah.
You know, good for you.
Yep.
I want to be that too. Except where is it stated that that's what life is supposed to be? You know, I formed you in your mother's womb before the foundations of time. Bro, like, we need to know what did you form? What was that? What's different about me than Kent? What was your intention when you balled me up and you put me in my mom and I was born? What was your intention, God? You know, it wasn't to build a business. You know, even the person who's curing cancer, like that's not the thing. That's not really the thing. That's a thing they do, and it's a great thing that they do. But it wasn't God did not say, okay, and you're the person that cures cancer.
Right.
Like, you know, that's a doing.
Yes.
It's like, you are here to release this in people. You're here to heal this in people.
Yeah.
You're here to fix this problem. You're here to give this gift. And if we can name that, then we get all of our power, all the power, you know? But when we're fixated on ego-driven accomplishment, not that those things, I like to accrue. I like to build. I like to go. I'm very goal oriented. That's all good. But when we make that our focus versus coming from the place of being, you know, who am I here to be? When we make it, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Then we're in a constant state of panic. When you think about, if you were to come, and this is what everybody asked me, like, if we were in a session, the first question somebody says is, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? And I'm like, dude, How am I supposed to know?
The question itself is telling, isn't it?
It is. What do I do? And it's like, how are any of us supposed to know what you should do? It would require us being able to see the future, and none of us see the future. So we don't know what you're supposed to do. So all we can do, and everybody's asking this question, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? How the heck can anybody know, in light of all the moving pieces of the history of the world and the future of the world, and the fact that we're just here in this moment? What am I supposed to do? There are so many ways to mess up. It's an unanswerable question that we're all asking and torturing ourselves because we can't get the answer. Lack of clarity, confusion, overwhelm, shutdown, shame, repeat. It's everybody. It's an epidemic. It's the worst thing going on right now because we're all living our lives without the knowledge of who we're here to be. When you can come back and say, home base for me, I've always been an encourager. From day one, looking back over my whole life, I've always seen something in somebody and said, dude, that's separate. You're so separate in that regard. That's incredible. And they feel seen, I've always been a strategist. I've always been able to say, okay, what's the fastest way, the smartest way to get from here to there? What effort are we going to see the fastest return on? Not just in business. That was, building a fort. What I mean, it's just always true of me, always true of me that I was silly and funny and like trying to bring levity and just, cornball. Always true that I'd be vulnerable first, not scared of that, not scared of you to see what's ugly in me because I knew it would make you safe, So I do those things now, but I look back and I've always been that. And I didn't accomplish that. That was placed in me, and that's how I shift the world around me, And so if we look at the things and just go, okay, what are the skills? What are the character traits that separate me from everybody else? What's been true, that my friend in third grade would say, and that my favorite teacher would say, and that my parents would say, my best friend that's here still today. What would those people say of me? That's what's important. And leverage that. Name that.
Yes.
And then leverage the crap out of that.
Okay.
Build your life and your business around that.
Yes. Okay. I want to come back to that. I don't want to move past the ego because I'm afraid I'm going to forget, because you mentioned the ego there. How do we think about the ego? Because this is something I've thought about a lot in the last couple of months, because I remember 2 years ago, well, I battled with this a lot, but when I was in business, I battled between sort of what would you even call it? Almost like a killer instinct, I guess.
Sure.
Which I felt like the root of that killer instinct was sin and selfishness, sort of. Like you had to make it, you had to look out for your own and things like that. And that to me felt very contradictory to the gospel. And so when I was in business, I had that it felt like polarized, like business and the gospel felt very polarized. Now it's different because I'm not in business right now, but now I do still battle the ego. How much do you allow it to sort of look out for its own and create a path? And how much do you make it like sit on the sidelines and just allow what's going to happen to happen? I mean, how do you think about the ego? And even, I guess, what would be lumped in that would be like even ambition and goals and those types of things.
That's a really great question, because people define the ego differently, but in the context that we're speaking, I think the ego is like that part that finds my identity in what I'm doing, so if I accomplish and if I take care of my own, if I do this, then there's worth there for me, because you tied it to ambition. So I think that's a context, like that's a definition in this context. And man, it's funny. It's like chicken or the egg, Ambition is good. It's good. But when you're driven towards the accomplishing without the root of knowing I am here to be this force, how do you know when you're done?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
how do you build it big enough? How do you know you're building the right thing? How do you know when it's time to move on? How do you know when it's time to stay?
Yes.
Like, and so we torture ourselves with our thoughts about what we're building or what we haven't built yet, how far behind we are. That's a big thing for guys. Every guy, I'll tell you this, most of my practice at this point is like high level, hugely high performing, super rich men. I've got a lot of those. I also have some women who are creatives and softer and, whatever, and successful and all that. But right now, the people that are coming to me they're badasses. Like they're badasses. But the truth is they built castles and they don't know who they are. They don't know why they built it. They're scared to death that the castle's going to come crashing down. Who are they then? Their worth, they don't matter if they're not achieving. And it's the saddest thing because they've done these amazing things, but they don't feel their value.
Yeah.
They're looking at a bottom line
Yeah.
to find their worth, dude. And
Yeah.
it's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah. We're watching the show Billions. We've enjoyed
Yeah.
that show since it's come out.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
season 3 is out. And at this point, the main actor, Bobby Axelrod, is a deca billionaire. And he's just, it's not enough. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like being worth $10 billion is not enough.
Right.
There's more. He doesn't even have a number in mind. It's about winning.
Right.
He's always thought it's been about winning. But in season 3, he's reached the conclusion that he kind of has won, but still hasn't. Like
Right.
he just wants to win. I don't even
Right.
think it's really about the money. It's just about winning. But in the past, he would have thought, when he's worth $10 billion, he would have won. He doesn't feel like he's won yet. Like
Right.
there's always just something else.
Well, and that's, even though we're not dealing with billions, the rest of us, isn't that, it's such a great metaphor for what we're all struggling through,
Yeah.
especially men. It's an epidemic
Yes.
among men, and we don't talk about it, and we should, because we put up this facade. When guys get behind my door and they're just regular people, then they can let themselves, there's a safety there and we can explore and we can fix some things.
Yes.
But as soon as they leave the door, someone's looking to them for the answer. Someone's looking to them for the money. Someone's looking to them for, they're just the man. Everywhere they go, they're the man.
Yes.
And when you have that label, the man,
Yes.
then you have to show up as the man. And then what if you're not?
Yeah.
What if you don't have, what if you have a lot of knowledge, but you don't have that anchor of my confidence, man? I'm uber confident in who I'm here to be. The rest of it, I don't know. And it's okay. It's okay because I know that this is my piece and nobody's going to rock my piece better than me. But I don't need to have that piece. That's your piece.
Yeah.
It's not all on me. These guys, these men, they feel like they have to have the answers in every situation. They have to be it in every room.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like 10 billion's not enough because there's always someone with 11.
Exactly. Yes.
So run, chase.
Yeah. You mentioned knowing those things that are in you, that you are. And if you look back on long periods of your life, like you could have identified some of those things the way it sounded like even as a teenager, maybe even as a kid, little kid
should.
building forts.
We should.
Okay. So my question is, how do you identify those things? And then I guess the question really is, how can people identify those things? Which brings us into your coaching. And I just wanted to read this off your LinkedIn page, which is what you're doing now, but blending brain science, business strategy, and spiritual principles, you wake people up to the greater possibilities for their lives and careers. I help my clients understand and leverage their unique, specific wiring and guide them to rewire the subconscious belief patterns that are holding them back, both personally and professionally. That is extremely fascinating.
Dude,
which I
for
think,
me too.
Oh man, so it probably ties into my question about how did you identify those things, or how do people identify those things? So let's just jump in wherever. I'd love to hear that, and then I'd love to hear all about this.
Oh man, well, okay. They are separate questions.
Okay.
I'm going to answer the first one briefly. Anybody who wants to find that stuff. First of all, I'll say not a pitch, but it's just true. People need to be able to identify these things and they're stuck out there and they don't know how. So I do have a class that it's a 6-week class. And the first 2 weeks of the class is to figure out like, who am I here to be and what do I want to do with that? So there are lots of tests out there that you can take. I suggest them. I think they're great, but I don't think they answer the question for you. Strengths finders, everybody should know their strengths. Everyone should take that test. Mm-hmm. Everybody should know them. Enneagram, everyone should know their tendency, mm-hmm. and they need to know that like when I'm in stress, I tend to this. When I feel strong, I tend to this. So I think the Enneagram and Strength Finders are both great. There's also Myers-Briggs and DISC and all that stuff. I like those less, but they're fine.
So you like Strengths Finders and Enneagram is kind of your favorites.
I think that. That. But again, what if we're both the same number? And we're both, we show up that we both have the same strengths. We're mm-hmm. still different people.
Yeah.
We still have different things. So it's a great place to start, but we have to contemplate. Like you got to get alone and start pulling on things and remembering, when was I strong? Like when did I save the day? And how did I save the day? What did that teacher see in me and call out of me? What did my best friend appreciate about me? What is that stuff? Then I love asking the people that matter in your life now, just go, hey, if you were, who do you say I am? What do you see in me? And what's killer about that is that you will separately, different parts of your life, and everybody will start making these lists and you'll go, oh my God, like there's that word over and over and over. Okay. So obviously I need to pay attention. I'm highly strategic. Everybody says like, I'm great at that. Also I am like a catalyst for people's, whatever that thing is in them. I've always been that, true in music when I'm producing, hey, guitarist, hey, singer, let's make that better this way. We're going to change it in this way. And then all of a sudden we get this performance that wasn't there,
Yeah.
So I've always been a catalyst for whatever the good thing was, So when you start seeing these words come back to you over and over, you go, okay, I got to pay attention to these words and then just get curious about it. Again, people have not been trained, so they don't know how. So, Life Relaunch, it's a class I teach. It's the best thing I've ever done. I've never done anything more important. I wish everybody in the history or the future of the world would take this class, because I know that if you can understand with full confidence who God placed you here on this, and it's not a Christian class, but I'm a Christian. It is the center of me, but it's not a faith-based class. It's a psychology-based class, science-based class, and a lot of non-Christians take it. But when you can know with certainty what the force is that you're here to be, really everything, every door gets knocked down. When you know with certainty, because you're going to stop going down all the roads. Mm-hmm. You're going to focus on, this is my road. And then in this road, man, put me up against Tony Robbins, put me up against whoever. I know what I bring. I know that I know the help that I give, and there's not a person in the world that's going to deliver my gift better than me.
Yes.
And I want that confidence for everyone.
It's not true for everyone, isn't it?
It's not a competition.
Yes.
There is no competition. We all started in different places. We all will end in different places. We're on completely different journeys. Why would we think that your third quarter and my fourth quarter, or his first quarter, whatever it is, why would we compare those things in any way, shape, or form? We are on completely unique journeys. And I believe that everyone is here for something unique to them, specific to them, and far more extraordinary than they give themselves credit for. Mm-hmm. Far more extraordinary. And so everybody's living these watered down versions of who they're here to be because they just don't have the statement. They don't know with certainty what that thing is. Mm-hmm. So they're not focused. They're all over the place. They're accomplishing some good things. They think that means something. It doesn't. It doesn't. You can have all the stuff It doesn't, we both know people who have all the stuff and they're empty, you know, and we also have people who have little, but they know who they're here.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you can't be in their presence without, you know, getting on you, you know? And so who's the success?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So my wish for everyone is just that you would come to understand who you're here to be.
Yeah.
And then, so that's step one, you know. Step two is, okay, so I know who I'm here to be. Now everything's going to be great, right? No.
Shoot.
That's incredible. That's great.
Yeah.
But then we also have our brain. And those of us who grew up in church, we understand the Spirit. We make a lot of things about the Spirit, you know, but they're not all the Spirit. You know, the operating system of our being is our brain. And very few people out there understand how does the brain work, you know, and yet it is our operating system. And so we continue these very dysfunctional loops, you know, and sometimes we even think that it's a functional loop, you know,
Yes.
but it's a dysfunctional loop, and we're out there just repeat, just like a computer, just like a computer. If I don't reprogram the computer, if I don't recode the computer will continue to do X, Y, and Z over and over and over, because that's the coding. Same thing for us. So most of the thinking that we are doing during the day when we're awake is here. Analytical mind, solving problems, reading, listening, seeing, it's all front of mind. And then that's great. That's wonderful. So we solve problems from left front lobe. But everybody watching, if you'll touch the back of your head, okay? This was really important for me. Okay, so you touch the back of your head and you go, okay, this part of my brain is automatic. This part of my brain is instinct. This part of my brain tells my lungs to breathe, tells my heart to beat, regulates the red blood cells. Like, this part of the brain is everything that happens without us knowing. So right now, you can take it down, but right now I'm just holding my hand here, and I've been talking, but I'm not thinking like,
right
now move your hand here,
Yes.
and now blah, 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 you know, whatever. There's so many automatic things that are happening. It's all happening from back of the brain. And so everything that's automatic is happening from the back of the brain. Okay. Bad news for us, okay? Bad news for us. Identity, all the stuff that we think we are. You know, I'm 6 feet tall. I weigh this much. I do this. I am this, whatever. Analytical. You know, identity is in the back of the brain. So that part of us that is this, we can say and think and analyze that we are so-and-so. But if that happens to be, if this contradicts that thing, then that's where we get that push-pull. That pull on us, you know, like, I'm successful. I can do it, right? I can, you know, I'm awesome. Look at all this stuff I built. No, you're a sham. You're an imposter. You suck. You know, you're broken. If they knew about you, you'd be disqualified. Every single person that comes into my office has some version of that, because analytically they can make the case X, Y, and Z. We can show the resume and we can blah, blah, blah. But somewhere in their programming from past experience, handed to them very often from someone else. They didn't even come by it rightly. It just was given. It was imprinted. Someone else's dysfunction written here. And the problem is, once it's here, which part of the brain wins? The part of the brain that tells your heart to beat, you know, or no, I can do it, you know? So the whole goal here, man, is to figure out what is coded on me. What is my identity? Not who do I think I am, or even what other people say I am. You know, what actually is written on me? And then how do I rewrite that? How do I leverage the pieces of it that are the good pieces of me that I want to be? How do I leverage that? And also, how do I shift the things that are written on me that I came by without even knowing, some very often without doing myself? And then very often, manipulating in a very poor way in my own self, my own sin, my own loops. It is sin, but also it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
Like very often it's like that. We come back to it's like a dog returning to its vomit. Like very often it's not even something that we shouldn't even shame ourselves over. It just is what the brain does, so we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We can, whatever's this and this and this, we can think on these things, as a man thinks, so is he. Not here, not what does he analytically think.
Interesting.
What is written, what is coded, who is this man? What is written here? Because we will do what we are, and we will not do what we're not. So I can chase success, chase, accomplish. But if I'm not that guy, if that's not what's written, if I'm actually small, if that's what's written, limited, past my ceiling already, then from the inside, you're held down from the inside. So the moment that you re-identify, re-anchor those beliefs, and rewrite that code, then really it does. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but that's where everything becomes possible. And not until then. Castle. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Dang, man. How long have you been in that space?
I've always...
The neuroscience part of this.
I just love it. I love it so much. I think before I was even in it, I was in it, because there have been pieces along the road. My dad made me read Personal Power when I was in 7th grade, I think, 7th or 8th grade. I got maybe just a little bit of it. I read the whole book, but it was over my head. And, I don't know that was the beginning of this thing called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. A lot of coaches, a lot of, people out there know a bit about it now, but at the time it was very new, So would I consider that to be the Bible of all this? Definitely not, but I did get a piece of it, Also, I think there's a lot of this, even though it's wrongly interpreted in the Bible, but our pastors don't understand this. And so they're making it about the Spirit. I actually think God was directing us very much in the Bible by saying, as a man thinks, so is he. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we're going, hey, that's about sin. Because that's what I understand.
Yeah. I mean, when you said those verses earlier, it's like, holy cow, that's a whole different level there.
Yes.
It could be a different meaning altogether.
It is, Kent. That's the deal. That's the thing. That's why I said I've grown beyond, I've grown beyond it. We teach what we understand, and pastors and teachers don't understand the brain. So they're teaching the Spirit because that's what they get, and no fault, they're doing the best they can, but we've wrongly taught people. We've made it about sin because that's what we like to focus on.
Sure.
But it's really so much more than that. He's giving us the key to unlock ourselves. Be transformed, not by repentance, by the renewing of your mind. That's what he said. How do I renew my mind? How do I do that? Is it by learning a Bible verse and saying it over and over and over? That's what we were taught. And yet we're all out here doing the same crap. How do I renew my mind? And that's the work.
And that's the work you're into now. So the back part of the brain here, would that be the default mode network?
Yeah.
Is that a term for that?
That is in certain circles. Yeah.
Okay. So I got that term from this book, How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. He talks about psychedelic use, all the research that's going on right now with psychedelic drugs, particularly psilocybin from mushrooms and LSD and Johns Hopkins University. These are controlled settings. These are professionals.
Right.
There's not just weird people out there doing drugs and seeing what happens.
Right.
However, what you're talking about is he talks about that in that book, and that brains can get into a loop.
They do.
And one of the benefits of some of these, like psilocybin, for example, it can sort of pause the default mode network, pause this loop that's going on, or almost like wipe the slate clean in a little bit. Are you familiar with using some of those psychedelic?
I know people who've done it. I know people who've gone through that, and I've read some research about it. It's a little fringe for me. Okay. For me personally, I think there are other things we can do before we get there. And I think once we exhaust those, then I don't need a mushroom to be the quick fix. Like I need to do my work. So I think some people are leaping over to just go, hey, it's not a pill, but if I do this, it'll fix me. Yeah. And I know some people who've done that, and actually it didn't fix them.
Interesting.
So
how do you go about then the part of your work where you're helping people work through these things and maybe changing some of these loops or mentalities, and how are you going about that? How do you enact change then?
It's so good, and obviously it's much more than we can talk about in this context, but I don't want to not answer the question. I don't want to not help. So I'll just say this, okay? This part of our brain is analytical. So every time we're reading the Bible or making a list or an affirmation or reading a book, underlining something, posting something up on our mirror because this is the truth, Anytime we're doing those things, and I'm not saying it's not helpful. I'm just saying it's analytic. It's this part of the brain. This part of the brain thinks in pictures. This part of the brain is creative. It is not, it doesn't analyze. It's not analyzing. It doesn't make lists. If you think of a dream, this part of the brain is in charge of dreams. So when you're asleep, you don't have the thought, you're not flying. You can't fly. Put that cape down, You don't have that thought. And you also, if you're falling, you'll be like, you're not really falling. You're like, So it thinks in pictures, and it accepts whatever the picture is. So if we can, instead of telling ourselves the truth, telling each other the truth, reading the truth, underlining the truth, if instead we could experience the truth, see the truth, feel the truth, that is how this part of the brain goes, oh, okay, we're here. This is real, whether it's real or not, because a dream can feel very real. I about 3 weeks ago, I had a dream that I was at dinner with Rihanna, and I was at dinner with Rihanna and her posse, and it was a bunch of people. Like, I think it was like 12 or 13 people. We had this big meal, and they left, and they left me with the bill. And I woke up so mad at Rihanna. Yeah. I was just like in my dream, I was like, why would she do that? And I woke, my adrenaline coursed through my body, and I woke up and I was mad at Rihanna. It felt so real. And then I burst out laughing, and I was like, this is what the brain does. I experienced that as extremely real. So if we can, the hardest part is identifying that piece, who am I? And also identifying the dysfunction. We don't like the discomfort of pulling on that string. We hate it. So the brain fights it, doesn't want to feel uncomfortable, doesn't want to feel unsafe. And so we have all kinds of mechanisms in our brains that sabotage us from pulling on that thread. But if we pull on it, and if we just look at it from a curious standpoint, without shame, without judgment of each other or of ourselves, just to say, the fact is, just the truth is I struggle in this way. You know, I struggle to believe X. My fear is this, you know. I think I'm limited in this way. You know, my secret is this, you know. Get it out. Get it out. Even only to yourself, if that's what feels safe. Just get it out, though. Stop the loop. That's how you stop the loop. You stop it yourself, you know. We know ourselves better than a mushroom or anything else could, you know. So we know what is true, but we avoid it. So get truthful, be honest, with no judgment, because there's no reason for the judgment. Not only is it not good for you, it's literally unwarranted, you know, and it's our spiritual, you know, churchy histories that make us think that it is. It's just like, what is in the brain? Just what is in the brain? And without fear or judgment, just let's look at that, you know, and then to say, okay, this is in the brain. What do I want to be in the brain instead? You know, this is what's there. Now my brain, my subconscious will accept an image as true, you know, whether it's true or not. And without speaking too candidly, you know where that leads to in many men's lives, you know? So we numb with that, you know, we numb with that. So if
you mean like porn or something?
I do, I don't want to say it because your son's
fine.
here, but but like, you know, there's all kinds of numbing, like put ourselves somewhere else, you know, and it works. It works biologically, physically, it works for people, you know, and it works from a psychological standpoint just to, you know, and so we're using this, we're proving that this is true in a negative way. What if we could prove the goodness of it as well? You know, put yourself in the situation in your mind that you want to be in. That's the key. So it's very often it's helpful to be aided, to be guided, because you just need to be you can't be the teacher and the student at the same time, you know? So even if you can do it on your own, it's helpful to have someone helping you so that they can ask the right question at the right time and kind of go, and what else? What do you see in this regard? And what do you see in this? And like build that out for you. The brain is reprocessing, constantly just going, okay, all right, so that's real, and that's real, and that's real, and that's real. And then all of a sudden you get to the end and your brain has accepted a new image, you know, a new truth. And then you can analytically come at it and reinforce that. I am this, I am being this, I'm here to be this analytically. And you can go and set goals for doing those things. But it has to be true here first.
Okay, so part of the process is kind of rewiring the back part of the brain, getting some of the crap out, getting what's true, getting, you know, clean, a clean vision of who you are, the gifts that God has given you. And then once you have that, saying, all right, well, here's then what's true about me. How can this benefit society? Essentially, then that's the next step, the doing part then?
I like that. I like how you just said that, because I think when we build our life around benefiting society, that really aligns with the idea that we're here to be a gift, which I very much believe.
Yeah.
What's the purpose if I'm not here to offer a gift? You know, if it's just this selfish consumption,
right?
That I can't get on board with that. It doesn't feel right. Like it just doesn't ring true.
Yeah.
It feels like if we're here, it's here to be help.
Yes.
And this broken world needs our help.
Yes.
You know, so yes, figure it out. Undo the wiring that recode, which is very doable. Meditation, music. That's why I was going to say music opens it up. You know, I the first 5 minutes of my day, and I've done some other work, so I'm not saying that this is the cure, because it's not. So please don't anybody think that, oh, that's too simplistic. Right. I've done lots of other work first, you know, but I do start my day with music that doesn't have lyrics and just opens me up, you know. I love the way it feels. I'm also very sensitive to music, so, you know, it speaks to me. So it opens me up, and then I actively cultivate the person I'm here to be in this moment, in this day, and I actively cultivate my success. What does success for me look like today? Who am I here to be today? And if everything went right today, what does that look like? And then I see myself interacting with my family, my wife, my kids, my friends. How am I benefiting them? How am I offering this gift everywhere I go? How am I in service, and everything's going right. What's great is the brain's going, okay, all right, that's the plan. That's who we're here to be. Let's go be that,
Interesting. This is fascinating.
Yeah, dude. There's so much more too. Like,
Yeah.
I know we can't but there's so much. Like,
Yeah.
it's such. I really recommend everybody. Everyone would live a better life if they knew a little bit more about all this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't doubt that for a second. And for the people that are like, yeah, this sounds a little weird. Well, let's remember that for at least the believers here, we can agree that God created us. We are very, very complicated beings, and it's all by design. None of it's by mistake. And so it's kind of like the brain is the Wild West. I mean, it's amazing what we know about the human body. I mean, it is. We can give people fake legs. We can repair legs. We can pull someone's heart out, put someone else's heart in there, and you go on. It's crazy what we can do. However, there's so much we do not know about the brain.
Right.
So much.
Right.
And we're learning a lot, but it's still, there's so much, but it's so complex, and God made it. And so it shouldn't. Some of this stuff is just the science of it. Like it's understanding the way it's wired and using that for essentially at the end of the day, God's glory.
Correct.
And
we're afraid. We're afraid of that. Why is it that we're okay with someone replacing a heart, or cutting off a leg and putting it on a prosthetic? We understand that and we're okay with that, but we're very afraid of anything that might look like we have been taught is New Age or Middle Eastern or Eastern philosophy or whatever.
Yep.
It's not. It is science. It's science. And we have been taught incorrectly by people who were well-meaning. They were well-meaning. I don't hold any fault. They taught from what they knew. But God created our brain, and it is the most complicated, most beautiful thing, I think, on the face of the earth. I don't think there's anything. We are the eighth world wonder. We are. When you start looking at the stats of what a brain is and how it works, it is like a galaxy. It is, and there's one, and there's one, and here's one, and they're everywhere. It's the most gorgeous, beautiful thing, and we avoid it many times as believers and just people in general because we don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, my goal in life, my goal in my career is to make it easy. Make it we don't have to know everything, but if we can know something, if we can know more than we knew, then we can get better.
Yes, that's such a great point. It's very well said. When we were just talking about this yesterday on the podcast, that Western evangelicalism tends to demonize that which it doesn't understand.
Yes,
and or that it's uncomfortable with. So if there's something that makes it a little uncomfortable, then we'll demonize it, and that's sort of how we can justify it. And this can be one of those areas, I think, maybe a little too quickly sometimes.
Yes.
I think the. So then, how do you balance then this idea of, because there's still a component here then of what you will do or how you can best contribute to society, because this is interesting because this conversation is very timely for me. Like, I am so thinking about these things every day. Like, this is the season I'm in right now.
Awesome.
And one of the thoughts that's occurred to me many times over the last couple of months is just, how can I best contribute to society? Because I'm kind of done with my plan. You know what I mean? Like, my plan that obviously didn't work out very
Beautiful.
good. And so I'm kind of over like figuring it out myself, having my plan, doing what feels good to me. I'm ready to figure out how can I best contribute to society.
I love it.
And so there is still a doing component here.
Well, check it out, okay? Because I'm going to interrupt that because I don't know that thought will take you somewhere good, okay? So when you go, how do I best contribute to society? What do I do? It's the same question. It's unanswerable. how do I best serve all of society? That's an incredibly overwhelming question that you're asking. And it's open-ended. And so you go, how do I best help society? And then you're looking at a blank page and you're like, hell if I know.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know?
Yeah.
You know? So that's the wrong question, friend. The right question is not what do I do? The right question is who am I here to be? Who am I here to be? And the difference is, when you ask the first question, you're looking to the future. From here, how do I best contribute to society? When you go, who am I here to be? You look at the past.
Interesting.
What has always been true? What has always been my greatest service? How have I always served the most? What was always the easiest for me? What do people appreciate the most about me? What are my greatest skills? What can I prove? And that's the deal. What can I prove?
Okay.
What would other people say about me? If I got my best friend here to say who I am, he'd say it way better than me. And he'd fight. He'd fight for it. If anybody said, no, he's not, he'd fight him,
Yeah.
Like, yes, this is the greatest guy for blah, blah, blah. He's this and this and this. And, he knows it. So whereas I may go, I don't know, but that might be my thing. He knows it. So go to those people, have them say who you are, you answer for yourself, and then look, dude, it's the most compelling, beautiful thing. It can be an incredible moment in your life to look all these different people from different parts of your life saying the same thing without people talking to each other.
Yes. And so so on the being part, who am I here to be? Would say one of the things, like for you, just so I have the categories right, is it's fair to say that you're here to be creative. You're here to be strategic. Am I getting that part right?
Be, character traits.
Okay.
And hard skills. So loyal, truthful, helpful, caring, enthusiastic, funny, character traits.
I see.
And then skills, strategist, leader, coach, mentor, friend. What do there's some doing wrapped up in that, in that word, So then you come with those two categories. And then you try and build a sentence. Like when you see that four of 6 people all said leader, then that's going to be in there, Someone's going to say strategist for you because I know that's got to be high on your list, So you're going to say like strategic leader, and then you go, was what here in this statement has always been true and what hasn't been true? Well, so right now, coach is true now. Was I always a coach? No. So I'm doing coach. I'm doing coach.
Yeah.
And that's now, but that's not who I'm here to be because that wasn't true of me in 5th grade.
I see.
So even though it's true of me, is it who I'm here to be, or is it just an expression of who I'm here to be?
And it might be one of those things that comes and goes in particular seasons as the Lord moves you through your life, which is what we were talking about earlier.
That's the deal. That's why I'm not scared at all or sad at all to let go of being a professional musician. It's not the current expression, but I'm the same guy. And I changed the world in the same way with a microphone in my hand, singing a song. Same thing, different expression, and it's okay because I know that I've always been X.
Yes.
Through all of these generations and, of me. Reiterations.
Seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So through all of this of me, I've always been this and I will always be this. This is the part that cannot be forfeited. This will never be forfeited in me because I never earned it. It was given. It was created. It was, stuck in me. It's in my DNA.
Yes.
And so that part, you go, okay, I've got that now. Then you move to the doing by saying, what I want to do with that.
Okay.
What
It
do I
just
want to
clicked.
do? What do I want to do with it?
Yeah.
I can do many, many things. What do I want to do? And as long as you're being, as long as the being comes first, you're good. You're gold. You can't screw up. If you know who you're here to be, you cannot screw up. If you're being that, you can be that over here or you can be that over here, but you're doing it. You're doing the right thing.
Yes.
You know? So you can build a company or you can go fishing, but you're being this wherever you are.
It's very powerful.
Dude, it'll set you free.
Yeah, it's very powerful. How would you phrase the question to your friends? When you think of me, what do you think of? Or who do you think I am? Or what are some traits that you know about me? How would you phrase that question?
Well, I've had, in my class, I have my students do that and I say, hey, I'm taking a class right now about, this and this and this, my purpose and more than that. But I'll say, what do you think my strongest strengths are? If you were in charge, if you had to say what my purpose is, what would you say my purpose is? Simple questions. You don't want to make it, you could make it fancier, but that will overwhelm someone who's not in the context, of all that you're thinking. But you just go, hey, I'm considering my purpose. I'm trying to come up with a new purpose statement. Everybody understands that. So you just say, hey, what would you say? I'm curious to say what you would say my purpose is. And just say, hey, I'm looking for character traits. What skills do you say how I stand out? And what character traits set me apart from everybody else?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Back to the pictures, how that back part of your brain processes pictures. Is this what you mean when you say you start the day with music and you think about if this day goes really, really well, what that would look like? Is that what you mean by giving the back part of your brain a picture to look at and sort of imprint? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it for sure. Dude, I could tell you, or you just want to do it.
You mean right now?
Let's do it.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Okay. All right. We're not gonna go as deep. I'm not gonna put you on the spot in a big way.
I don't mind if you do. Go for it.
That's really sweet, man.
I don't have much to hide at this point.
I appreciate it. It's so good. Okay. Well, just since we're very much in our analytical minds right now with this conversation, so I'm just gonna ask. It's gonna be cheesy. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
it's
they
just
get it.
we have to I just want you to breathe, and I want you to expel a lot of this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go there, will you think about something that you want to change or something you want to improve?
Am I after a trait here? Am I after a loop that's stuck in my brain? Am I after something I do?
You're a place where you feel stuck or
Yep.
a place that you want to be better. A thing you hope.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Guys, I'm so glad we're doing this, y'all. This is
It's
great.
getting real,
This is great.
Lincoln.
It's getting real. Yeah, it's good. Thank you for being, an example, because anybody can do something like this. And I do want to say, this is a piece of the work. This isn't the whole work. So anybody out there watching, going, "That's what he says." It's a piece. It's a piece, and it is a very important piece. So I'm glad we're doing it. Okay, take 3 deep breaths in, and just when you exhale, if you'll just exhale this conversation out, clear your brain so you can just be present in your own space. Okay. Maybe 2 more breaths.
Okay.
Okay, I want you to bring up that part of you, that thing that you wanted to shift. Okay? And I want you to imagine that you are a year down the road. And in regards to this thing in your mind, everything went right. That thing you wanted to change, everything went right. Don't answer out loud right now. I just want to say, like, what do you see in the space? Where are you? What does the space look like? Who's around you? Now, as you can, just explain, show us, tell us, stay there,
Mm-hmm.
stay there. Explain what you see.
I am seeing vibrant relationships with friends, a kind of engaged relationship with my kids.
Tell me specifically what you see in this one picture. So you're surrounded by friends,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's smiling and laughing and happy together. And really see that. Not making a list for me, or like really describing a picture that's actually happening in your mind. So you're surrounded by friends, and you take it over. What do you see?
Yeah. Engaged with those around me, not hiding things, not trying to be someone I'm not. There's joyful, helpful conversations, meaningful conversations.
Where are
There's
you?
a
What's the
joy.
room? What's the space?
I am, weirdly enough, I'm in our front yard.
Okay, great. So you're in your front yard.
Yeah.
Be there.
Okay.
Okay. You're in your front yard. How many friends are around you? Which friends are around you?
I'm going to pull in, probably a couple of my childhood friends.
Which ones? See them in your mind, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you see?
I'm going to go with, you think I should name names on the podcast?
You can give their initials if you want.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go with JS, AL, TT, JF, my wife, the kids,
What are you guys doing?
CK.
Love it. Keep all of them in the picture.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
We're grilling.
Love it.
We're grilling in the front yard.
Love it.
Hanging out, having great conversations. Whoever wants to is drinking some beer, grilling something. There's some music playing. Just very present,
Mm-hmm.
There's no guards here. We're not trying to be, there's
Right.
no one's got anything to prove. People aren't on their phones, distracting themselves. There's no need for distraction here.
Yeah.
We're all very present.
Okay.
And I'm very present. And that's key.
It. I love it. So you're by the grill. Let's put you by the grill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who's with you? Are you alone? Are you with someone by the grill?
Preferably we have sort of a crowd in the front yard, but I am by the grill, and 3 or 4 of the guys are with me by the grill.
Okay. See that.
Mm-hmm.
How are you showing up in that picture? Who are you being in that picture?
Being present
Okay.
is key.
Yes.
I am being genuine to myself. Could say authentic. That some of those things sometimes get a little overdone, but I'm being, I guess, I'm not hiding anything here. Being genuine to myself, and definitely conversant. Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay.
Happy? Are you happy in this picture?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Happy
The guys.
and-
The guys are happy for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, we're having a great time.
And you're being happy and content and present,
Helpful. Wise.
Yes.
Funny, but not comedic, know, but we're having a good time. Mm-hmm. Like it's fun. So maybe fun is a better word than funny. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about some meaningful things. Mm-hmm. It's not just random small talk that goes on all afternoon,
Right. And that's important because...
Oh, well, that's important because there's so many interesting things to talk about and kind of reason through and discuss and help each other with. I mean, we all have shit going on, or we have successes that need to be celebrated. There's things to figure out here. Like, it's important. We're here for a reason, and so we're not wasting a bunch of time with just random small talk.
Yeah, we're going deep.
Yeah.
Like, we're connected.
Yes.
There's no facade.
Yep.
This is true friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we could keep going. I think for the sake of time, we're not going to, but we could. I'm really glad it just happened just exactly like it did. You guys, if y'all are still watching, are people still watching
I'm
this?
sure they are.
I hope they are.
They're probably tuning in.
I hope so. Like, I love what just happened because your brain really fought going there. When you watch this back, you're going to realize like the first several things that you said were hypothetical. It wasn't a real picture. You're like, there are people around, friends where, it's a good environment, it's this and this, but you didn't describe the yard. You didn't describe the grill. It wasn't a real place. They weren't real people. It was very vague, and that doesn't work. So the brain needs specifics. It needs a picture. So then you went to a picture. You're by the grill, 3 or 4 guys around you. You named which ones, And I could have said, we could have gone into detail, like, what are you grilling? How does it smell? How does it taste? You picked it up. The more that you can give it, the more real it is for the brain. Okay. Now that's like, okay, so why are we grilling out in my brain? Like, what's the deal? But then you go, okay, how are you being in this picture? I'm being connected. I'm being present. I'm being fun. I'm being helpful. I'm being wise. Who am I here to be? That's who I'm here to be. Because the context was, if everything went right and you didn't place yourself on top of a castle, having built a business, you place yourself in the freaking backyard surrounded by the people you love, that is directive. It's highly directive. You could have done anything. You could have gone anywhere, and that's where you went. So I am here to be connected to these people that I've chosen to let in my life. Appreciative, open, authentic. And that's what the people are going to talk about. I mean, to bring it full circle, man, that's what people are going to talk about. When you're gone, they won't talk about what you built.
Yeah.
And guys, like, honestly, please, friends, like, we have to get this.
Yeah.
Because the world is so broken. And it's not going to get healed with good people chasing after the thing and the doing versus knowing with great detail and confidence who they're here to be. And so you can use these exercises. You can use that same exercise in lots of different ways. But like, let's say you were going to be in a business situation. You're going to negotiate a deal. You can play through, okay, if everything went right when negotiating this deal, what happens? I get what I wanted. They also get some of what they wanted, blah, 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 blah. Who am I being in this picture? I'm being confident. I'm being fair. I'm being generous, but I'm being firm. I'm being this, I'm being this. Then your brain's going, okay, this is who I'm here to be. This is what we need to do. Okay. Then you're done. You've already been there. Then you show up to the situation where you're actually negotiating, and your brain already knows. It's already been there.
Okay.
It's already been there.
Yeah. In other words, you can use that practice for, today you have a board meeting or a meeting, or there's a negotiation, or you're going to close a deal or negotiate a deal or whatever. Maybe the other 300 days working that year or whatever, you're not going to do that. But today you're going to. And so before you start that particular day, you visualize who you want to be in that meeting. Gotcha. And that's not necessarily what you're taking with you for all of life, but for that day.
Yeah. Let's make it practical. Let's don't be too esoteric. Like let's make it super practical. And how do I use this today? What am I doing today? The doing. Okay, let's figure out who I'm here to be. Now, what do I want today to do? I want to go be ambitious. I want to build something. I want to build that. Okay. Everything went right. Building that. What do you see? It looks like this. It looks like this. It looks like this. Okay. Who are you being? Okay. I'm being this. I'm being this. I'm being this. And then you go, okay, go be that.
Yeah.
And you will do those things.
Yes, I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. And is that neuro-linguistic programming? Is that what we just did or not necessarily?
No. I don't. Okay. I kind of made this up. So, based on some other things, like let's be, I will say like meditation could go that direction. And I don't think that meditation is always safe. Like you can't just go anywhere with anybody and trust that they're going to take you to a good place, take me to my spirit, leader or whatever, and I'm not about that.
Sure.
So for me, it's like, we have to focus it, but just because, I don't want that doesn't mean I can't benefit from the principle. So I have done the broad stuff. I've gone all the places and I've brought back the safe things
I see.
For people. So this doesn't necessarily have a name, but it's just everybody can feel safe knowing that I care. I think like they think, the same things matter. I have the same concerns, and so, hey, let's don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's use the piece of this that we can.
Yeah.
So it's meditation.
Thanks for doing that. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. There we go.
Yeah, thanks.
So how would you define neuro-linguistic programming? What is that?
It's a modality. I wouldn't even, in the context of this awesome conversation, I wouldn't want to point people towards that. I'll just say, not right now, because I don't think it's, I think let's be here and just make it about the being. Yeah. The piece. Just to answer your question very simply, it's broad and people say different things, but it is offsetting, interrupting the brain loops, and the normal patterns, and replacing things. That's what it is in general.
I see. Okay.
But there are different methods of getting there. And you could, with that very broad thing, you could put this underneath that, but there are lots of other things that you could put underneath it too.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing then people that do these exercises, maybe do what we just did or even do it more thoroughly, maybe, which I suspect you get into in your course. And they kind of set off then on this journey. Where are you seeing them maybe what are some common pitfalls then to be aware of?
Oh, I love that. I mean, for me, I would go the opposite way and I would say like, what are the benefits? The benefits are you write your story instead of your story just happening, and so there are no pitfalls if we are actively cultivating who we're here to be. You literally can't fail. If you get this directive, and I believe from God, if you get this directive from God and you actively cultivate it, then that's as close to the garden as we're going to get. That's beautiful, to be awake and then to be building within the context of who I'm here to be, knowing that I literally can't fail. And if someone deemed something that happened as failure, it's still not failure, because I'm here to be this, and I was
Yeah.
being that every day. So I literally can't fail. On the other side, I can win every day. I can win the day because I'm confident in who I'm here to be, and I am being that everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So the pitfalls for all of us, and I wouldn't say just about this, but when we're not asking these questions, when we're not, then honestly, that's how you are where you are right now, man. When we don't contemplate, when we just get stuck doing and trying to figure things out, especially things that we can't figure out, they're not answerable from the knowledge, the data that we have right now. If we had more data, we could do it. But in this moment, we don't have all the data, and we're trying to answer questions without all the facts and without the data. So,
yes. So what would you say then to people that say, okay, I get it. I like some of what you're saying, but 10 years ago, or even more recent, I tried the self-help stuff. I got into it. It didn't really work. Now it feels a little bit gross.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people?
I understand. And then I would say, how did you take in that self-help? Was it a book? Was it a podcast? Were you listening to something? Were you reading something? Front of mind. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
As long as we're analyzing our way to it, it's not going to work.
Yep.
It is a being thing. The subconscious mind and the prefrontal cortex are in opposition. Analytics, analyze and file, just pull things apart, automatic, instinct. It just is.
Yeah.
No judgment, So you can't read these things and get it.
Yes.
You have to be these things.
Yeah. Okay.
But I get it because it's been, I studied it for so long before, and honestly, we could say this not just about self-help. We could say this about the Bible. We could say this about church. We'd say this about a lot of things. Fill in the blank, But when you know something, it doesn't mean you know it. When you are something, doesn't mean you are it.
Yeah.
We do what we are. And if it did not align with who you are when you read the book, it's not going to work.
Oh, that's a big point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big point, actually.
Yeah, it is. And you have to be careful about who you listen to.
Right.
There are a lot of books out there that's just fluff, and it's gonna leave you empty, man.
Yeah. And it's one size fits all.
It's one size fits all. Please stop with the formulas.
Yes.
Stop with the freaking formulas. We are not one size fits all.
Yes.
None of us are. In fact, we are wholly unique. We're completely unique. So to think that this book is going to solve I'm looking at some of those titles, and honestly, some of those books offend me. Some
of them offend me now too. A lot of them offend me now.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I've read some of those books, and they leave you wanting and frustrated because you gave the time and energy and hope to the book or to the teacher or to the coach. I'm in an industry filled with hacks.
Because the barrier to entry is so low.
Coach.
Yes.
Please. Something? How am I supposed to teach Kent Lapp how to be a better Kent Lapp? I can't. It's such a terrible title. There really should be another title, but it really is what it is. And if people come with humility and tools, by the way, I study, I work so hard to have something to share, and most coaches don't.
Yes.
They don't. They're just they'll point you to a book.
Right.
And it's guys, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. When did you have the realization that this is going to be the next chapter or the next thing that you focus on?
It's a beautiful question. Man, I've always been a helper. I've always seen potential, like standing on a stage in 6th grade, singing my first solo, looking out at the audience and wanting to give a piece of me for their benefit in that moment. That's what that was for me. Like I wanted to share a piece of me so that they would feel better, that they would be encouraged, that they would maybe be changed. Like that's what I was drawn to. That was the incredible power of music for me. And that's who I was being in that moment. Yes, I was doing the song, doing the singing, you know, but it was always for me what's my highest value. And as a kid, that was my highest value. When I sang my 4,367th session, and there's that same song again, you know, some version of the same chords and same whatever. And I'm like, is this all there is? Like, I'm going to sing this song for the rest of my life. This is why I'm here, to sing this freaking song over and over and over again. And then you go, there has to be more, not to degrade my history. My history got me here, and I freaking loved my history. And it's something I longed for and that a lot of other people long for. But at a certain point, you just go, there's got to be more to me, you know? And then tragedy struck in my life, more than just that. I could tell you other tragedies. And then you go, okay, like God in his mercy, like ushered me to things that I wouldn't have taken the label off. I wouldn't have said singer off, producer, musician, just to rip it off. But the moment that I realized that awesome label they were shackles. You know, once I really understood that there was more to me, then it was like, I have to let this thing that has defined me, I have to let it go so that I can see what else is here, you know? And then, you know, it was a very awkward transition. So I know that someone listening is in a very doubting place because they're trying and it's not working. And that happened for me too. Okay. So, you know, I want everybody to know it's not supposed to be pretty. And it's why you have to have the confidence, that anchor of knowing who you are. Otherwise, you will be tossed about. You know, it will be horrible. It will be hard, you know, but I had an assurance, and the assurance made me keep going.
I see. Okay.
So, really, then it became a matter of, finances. I was letting go of music, and I had coaching clients, but not enough to support my family, because I was supporting my family partly through music still, you know? Then I had to do that awful, oh my God, I'm letting it go, oh my God. So 2016 was that for me.
Oh, really?
It's horrible, man. It was horrible of letting it go so that I could take hold of something else, you know?
Yes.
And I knew I couldn't be both. I had been trying it, and it was driving me insane, you know, but I didn't want to let go of my identity. I was like, can I do this and still hang on to this piece of me?
Yes.
You know, no is the answer. No.
Why didn't you try to do that? Do you just know better?
No, I did for years.
Oh, okay.
And it was horrible because, you know, I'm coaching someone on Monday, and then I'm singing a session in the afternoon. And then the next day I'm singing a session, or I'm working on a song with somebody. And then I've got to get in the mind of the headspace and the heart space to coach someone. Like the back and forth. And I was just tired. I was so exhausted. And it felt like I had to hide music from coaching. People are like, what? You're a musician? So I don't want you. You know, you're not my coach. And then vice versa. Like if the music crowd knew that I was coaching, then they'd be like, oh, he's retiring. He's getting out. So don't hire him. He's not available.
Interesting.
So I was hiding, and I felt so incongruent, you know, and then I had to let it go.
I see.
I mean, it was a terrible little Ebenezer moment, just like, you know, I stack some stones and move on from here,
Yeah.
you know? And I let it go, and it was horrible and painful and awkward and perfect. And it was right, and it was good, and it led to so many great things. And I was already loving the mind. Like I've loved the brain, you know, for many, many years.
Okay.
I've loved it. But then I started, you know, really getting into neuroscience
I see.
and understanding what, not just psychology, but the brain, how does it work, you know?
Interesting. So was the hardest part for you then letting go of the music? Was it the finances or the identity?
Both.
Okay.
Terrible.
Okay.
But the worst is the identity, because my ego was tied to that. My ego, all of my accomplishments, man, Grammy Award winner, you know, top session singer, you know, multi-award winning producer, you know, everywhere I went, someone's like, oh, there he is, you know, he's the guy in charge. And everywhere I went, I was the man to some degree. And my ego was so tied to that. Falsely, by the way, but it was tied to that. And it was a beautiful reckoning, you know, to lay it down and still be okay. You know, it was beautiful.
Yeah. How long did it take until you were like, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. The coaching is going to work. It can provide for me and my family. And like, how long was that?
Yeah. It wasn't that long. It was shorter than I thought it would be.
Okay.
And I, you know, it was longer than I wanted it to be and shorter than it could have been.
Sure.
You know, so I'm not even going to say, because someone out there is going to be like, oh, it's only going to take so much time.
Right.
I'm just saying, the formula is understand and own your gifting, own your divinity, that divine piece of you, that thing that God placed in you. Own that with all the gratitude in the world and without ownership over it. It's not me. It's the gift that was given to me. So there's no ego there. Like I'm just blessed with these things, you know?
Yes.
So now from stewardship, you know, knowing that I've been given these gifts, I'm going to run like hell. I'm going to run with everything I've got after the prize. You know, I'm going to run. I'm going to press on towards it. And when you know and you're focused, you know, it's a short way.
Yeah.
It's a short way.
Well, you've got that fire in your belly. And when you've got that fire in your belly, you're going to press on in a way with, you know, more gusto and energy and face challenges in a way that you're just not going to be able to if you just don't have that conviction.
Truth.
So the coaching is what you do now.
Yeah.
Full time.
Yes.
And do you have to travel to meet these guys and gals? Do they come to you? Do you do it online? How do you, what's the mode of communication?
So I want to say, like, coaching is so ambiguous, you know, it can be so many things. I will say, like, thanks, man. Yep. I work with lots of different people. People come to me with personal issues and people come to me with professional issues. I love growing businesses. I love growing people even more. So sometimes people are in crisis very often. And this is my favorite thing. Like, I love working with people who on paper wouldn't necessarily need a coach. Those are my favorite people. They've already done some work and they're not walking around broken in life. And I just want to say those people who are leaders and are out in front, who are coaches in so many ways, I think I'm the coach for that coach.
I see. Yeah.
There's other help for people who are broken. You know, there's other help. I like to work with people that when I give to, when I give to these people, it's going to spill out into other people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, that's my favorite. That's my jam. So, so there are a lot of people here in Nashville, and I meet with those people locally. And then probably 55% of my clients are elsewhere, and we meet on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just do it
weekly or
online.
monthly or just however it seems to.
Everybody needs me more than they think they do, more
Yeah.
often than they think they do at first.
Okay.
And then so I like to be super intense at first, be very much in somebody's life, be very much available. I don't do like the coaching model, like the counseling model where you schedule an appointment and then I'll see you in 2 weeks when you come back.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't work.
Oh, interesting.
Anybody, don't spend your money that way, please. Because the moment that you leave the counselor's office or the coach's office, you're stuck back in your own head to implement whatever changes you guys said that you would do on your own, and you're in your own processes. And 2 weeks later, you're going to come back and you will have not made the progress. And so I think that counseling very often, the reason we get stuck in counseling for 6 months or a year or longer is because the process negates the fact that, we're people. We're stuck in our own brain, and someone interrupts the pattern, but then we keep going, and we're on our own.
Interesting.
And it does not work. So I don't do that. When someone hires me, like I work with a smaller group of people, more intense for shorter amounts of time. So I would rather work with somebody for 3 months and then never see them again, but they made this huge shift. And during those 3 months, like we're very much in touch because they need me.
Okay.
I guarantee you, while I've been here, my phone has blown up. I probably have 15 texts from my clients just saying,
oh, wow,
like what's going on, what they're dealing with. And we're that much in touch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I freaking love it. I wouldn't have it any other way because I'm a part of their daily progress.
Interesting.
And I love it. And any coach out there, you should change your model. That's how to me, that's how it should be done.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that does not bother your personality. I mean, you're kind of always on with these people that you're helping in the season, and it's going to be an intense season, but you're available. But you're still scheduling these. These.
We have 2
calls.
meetings a month.
Okay.
And then we're in touch all the dang time.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the two meetings are like, it's not, hey, tell me how you are. I know how you are. I talked to you yesterday, but now we're talking about what's the plan for the next 2 weeks, and then we're implementing, and you're struggling through that and you need my help, and I'm helping you through it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And those loops and those cycles are coming up, and we're talking about those today, and we're visualizing for today what the thing is, or you're going into that meeting and we're talking about the strategy of that contract today, so that you're not off doing your life for 2 weeks without me. And then, then we show up and it's like, dude, you did it all wrong. Like, that was all so broken, and let's start again. You know?
I see.
We don't do that.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, personally, as a believer, how do you kind of reconcile, or what's your philosophy or even theology then on the fact that, God is all powerful, and he's in control, but we're going to take some action, wrestle through some things, and take responsibility ourselves. You know what I mean? Have you ever bumped into in your work here, that idea? I mean, I guess bumped into that where it's like, well, but maybe we just need to wait on God for a bit.
Okay. I love that you're saying this, man. Wait on God. We've spent a lot of our lives waiting on God, and it's just it's not biblical. Like, and I know somebody out there is immediately yelling and disagreeing. Stay with me. Okay. The verse that we quote for waiting on the Lord, those who wait on the Lord, they will mount up they'll run, not faint. They'll mount up on wings as eagles. That verse it's built on the fact that someone has run a race and they are zapped, like they're tired, they are broken in some way. They've just come through a season where they've been squashed in some way. That's not all of us all the time. So if that's our situation, then waiting on the Lord may be totally right, especially if we don't know who we're here to be. Maybe there will be a moment where God will speak to us in that regard, But that's not most of us who are quoting that verse saying, I'm just waiting on the Lord.
Yeah, it's not most of us most of the time, right?
Most of us most of the time
Yeah.
are saying, I'm just waiting on God. And I'm like, God is not trying to hide his purpose from us. Like, that is so not God, you know? And it's also not the Bible. It's what our brain is doing to avoid the work that's in front of us. So we say, I'm waiting on God because we want clarity. And but like, did Jesus get ultimate clarity all the time? Did Paul? No. Like, those are not our biblical mentors.
Yeah.
You know, nobody came down, like, even when Moses got the burning bush, you know, there was a lot of conflict and a lot of questions still, a lot of vagueness still. And even the final directive was go.
Yeah.
You know, go and I'll teach you what to say. I'll show you where to go as you go, you know? So here's the deal, man. I love your question. My favorite and most convicting part of the Bible to me is the parable of the talents. We don't look at those red letters as carefully as we should. The ruler, the master comes and he gives to his 3 servants, you know, you get this, you get you 1, you get you 2, you get 5, you know, and then I'm out. So then he leaves and he says, you're going to give an account for this at the end. You'll give an account. Now he's gone and he doesn't come back and check. They don't go, I'm waiting on the ruler. I'm waiting on the master to come back and tell me what to do with my 1, with my 2, with my 5. He entrusted it to them. And then he left. He was gone. So anytime we get further direction, anytime God whispers more direction to us, based on the red letters, Jesus' own words, he is being gracious to us. He's giving us more than he actually told us we should or would get. You know, in the actual picture, in the actual parable, he leaves, and when he returns, they give an account. You know, so there is no question here. Waiting on the Lord has given us our directive. You have your 1, you have your 2, you have your 5. Grow it. Grow it. I'm entrusting this to you. And I love that it's talent.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes, it was money, but it was talent. Like, I love that it's like, I've given this to you. I'm entrusting this to you. Go and make of it everything you can. And when I return, you'll give an account for that. So if we're reading our Bibles, we should not be saying, I'm waiting on the Lord. Sorry. And that passage is so convicting and such the fire underneath my feet to say, go, 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 run, 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 run. That's where my ambition comes from. You know, again, just saying, hey, I've got this. I don't have everything. Not everything. I just got these 2. I'm not the guy with 5.
Yeah.
I'm just the guy with 2, but I'm going to do everything with my 2 that I can.
Yeah.
You know, with confidence.
Yep.
And I don't need a word from the Lord. I have the word of the Lord over my life, you know? So let's go build until he shows up and says, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think rather than waiting, we should be moving. You know, Exodus 4, he's like, go to Moses, go. And I'll show you as you're going.
Yeah.
So same thing.
Yeah. Now, are you still okay with like a season where you decide not to decide, where, you know, that's sort of the season we're in now? Because I knew coming out of the bankruptcies, I wasn't going to be in a position to make a major life decision.
Sure.
And so we kind of decided not to decide for a season.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm also a big fan of protecting the downside, which is like, you know, we kind of jumped headlong into this podcast, which I just love. I really love this. It's enjoyable.
Too.
It's like,
great.
what could go wrong, you know? And if we only do the podcast for a season or it's not super popular, maybe, well, it's like, well, the downside is protected because I don't need it to perform a certain way for my life to now work a certain way. And if you think about even if say it fails in a sense, I'm still going to win because of the things I'm going to learn from it,
Absolutely.
the better communication, like those types of things.
Yeah, man.
So you're still okay with like a season where you decide not to decide for particular reasons?
I think right now you are one of those who have been knocked down. So waiting on the Lord right now
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's providence that we're having this conversation. Like, I think it's part of, I think you're responsible in a new way at the end of this conversation. You know, you're closer to moving than you were before because you do have new information. You do have some new clarity, and it's going to be very directive, man. When you actually do the work, when you actually get clear in that regard, you're going to have a compass that you didn't have before, and it will be time to move.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yes.
And it's okay that it's not yet.
Yeah.
And it's okay that it wasn't 2 days ago, but 2 days from now, it might be different.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to ask you about pursuit of wisdom. Got a couple minutes here. I know wisdom is important to you. The pursuit of wisdom is important to you. What is it about that that's important to you? How do you go about pursuing wisdom?
Well, everything good that's happening for any of us is born of someone else's wisdom or our own, you know, and it's all a gift, you know. If you think of Solomon or David or, you know, modern gurus who are, you know, making the world what it is today, wisdom, you know, is a huge thing, from financial, from parenting, you know, to sit at the feet of people who have already been there and already know more than we do. It's just the shortcut. And why would we not take that, you know? So yes, wisdom is very important. I will say that over time, what's been very important to me was to shut out all the voices. We're looking at his books right now, you know, to shut them out, you know, and bring it down to a few. Like, I used to think it was awesome because I'd read so many books. I knew so much. Like, I was familiar with everybody. That's like broad.
Yes.
It's not good. Instead, everything got better when I said, I'm going to shut everybody off and I'm listening to these 3 people for now. And then another 3 people later. And instead, like, I just sit in that wisdom. That's where I grew, like where I grew exponentially, you know, especially with this neuroscience stuff, you know. There was so much stuff, you know, so broad, you know, and where do you go, you know? And then if I also listen to a podcast on blah, 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 I also this and this, and I also, so you get to the end of the day and you're like, what the heck, you know? So every day I start my day off talking to my wife and my kids, you know, while I'm still in bed, and then they leave and I take 5 or 10 minutes and I picture my day as best as I can. Imperfect, but I try. You know, I try to play through my day. So this morning I thought about this interaction. I thought about, if everything went right, what am I bringing? I set my intention. I came in here and told you, you know, the thing I want people to know is this, you know? And so I set my intention. I had that intention when I came in here because I'd already been there in my mind.
Yes.
So I'm not surprised that this is going well. And I'm not surprised that we're giving a gift here because it was my intention to show up and be this, you know? Okay, so I do that. Then I turn to teachers. And I have 3 or 4 right now that I'm only listening to 3 or 4 people, even though there's all kinds of other stuff I want to listen to. In the morning, I listen to 3 or 4 people that are about what I'm learning right now, you know?
Podcast or
Podcasts, or I'm in a few classes. I listen to a few books, you know? There are a few things, but I used to be broad and I was confused. I was walking around confused because there was so much information.
Yes.
So now it's like I've focused it in tight, and maybe for a week, I'm only going to study, you know, creative brain and critical brain. Like, maybe I'm only going to study that for a solid week. Well, you do that for a week, every day, 30 minutes a day, and quiet the other voices. listen in the car, listen to a book on tape, or listen to podcasts or whatever. I just said book on tape, like that exists. That's funny. So, but you do that for a time, and you'll get to the end of the week and you'll be better.
Yes.
And you'll own something versus having been exposed to a bunch of things, you know?
Yes.
So I love that, man.
Yeah, I love that too. That's one of the things I thought about when I turned 30. I'm 35 now, but just kind of going into the 30s, I did have the conscious thought that I'm going to narrow down the people that I'm learning from, the types of books I'm reading. I'm not proud of it, but you know, a lot of these books here, these books are read in my 20s, and you can kind of, and then on this side, which you can't see, that's more the spiritual and theology books. And there's two things that I'm very, very much not proud of. Is basically I read this entire bookshelf first, and then only the last few years switched over and read these. Yeah. And this bookshelf over here is not as full as that one. But so yeah, I definitely resonate with like narrowing it down. And the other thing that helped too was is definitely not original with me. I can't remember who said it, but just the idea of like, there's so much information out there and trying to move to more like just in time as opposed to just because. And so learning just for the sake of learning all the time, that can get overwhelming. And I think that can burn people out too, as well, if they're just learning and learning and learning, but you're not really doing anything with it. Then it just sort of like can just fester almost.
Yes.
And so figuring out what you want to learn about and then reading those books, that can be a lot more effective.
I agree. And so you saying that reminds me of a friend of mine who is way better at this than either one of us. He's just so brilliant, this guy, so smart. And he taught me I should implement this more, but I watch him do it. Whatever he consumes, at the end of it, he writes down 3 action points for himself. What does this mean for him? And the act of, I did it there for a second, you know, and the act of writing down your takeaway and how you're going to implement this, like it makes it real. Yeah. You know, so it's equivalent of taking notes, but when you consume a TED Talk or a podcast, like maybe we'll even challenge the people, you know, listening to this, when you're done, what does this mean for you? You just invested all this time with us. You know, what does it mean for you specifically? And take a minute and write down 3 takeaways, 3 action points. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to implement this wisdom into my life this way. Otherwise, you walk away from it and you get some other stimuli and the next stimuli and the next stimuli, and you can't even remember this conversation.
Yeah. Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I got to let you go, but anything you'd want to share with the listeners in closing, or to recap anything or reiterate or anything you want to leave with them?
Yeah. Thank you. 2 things. One, you, friend, I'm going to look at you. You were created for something unique and specific and extraordinary, and it's not going to happen automatically. Even though it's yours, it's got your name on it. It's not going to happen automatically. You have to know who you're here to be. You have to figure that out. You're only going to do what you are. You'll always hit a ceiling. You know, whatever this is, you'll hit the ceiling. So you have to remove the ceiling. You know, you have to do some thought work. You have to figure that out. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. I don't know anybody who's better at this than me. You know, this is my mission. This is my purpose, is to help people with that so that they can go be the fullness of who they're called to be. I legitimately haven't come across anybody else who cares as much about it as I do. They're better coaches. They're better, you know, business people. They're better, whatever. Nobody's better at this than I know, that I know of. So if this has resonated with you, I hope you'll reach out to me. I have, you know, we can work together one-on-one, or I have classes. I love Life Relaunch. Again, it's the most inexpensive, the greatest investment that I think you could make in this regard in yourself. It's cheap, and we'll do another one in the late summer. 6-week class with me and dealing with this. Who am I here to be? What do I want to do? Why haven't I done it already? What's possible from here? Who do I need to ask for help? You know, what if I don't? What if I don't do these things? What happens to the world if I don't? Only you, in the history of the world, in the future of the world, you're the only person who can do what you're here to do. So, parable of the talents, You got to figure out what that is, and you got to go do it. And I would love to help you.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, bro.
And just to make sure they know where to go. So if they Google Life Relaunch, or is there a website?
I think come to my name. So chancescoggins.com.
Okay.
So CHANCESCOGGINS, chancescoggins.com. You'll find it there. You can contact me there. And there's a wait list right now. If you go to, actually, that's going to be too complicated of a thing. So anyway, just go there, contact me there, or find me on social media.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook like big time.
Okay,
and
cool.
I love Facebook. And
Are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, but like, who wants to see a picture of me
Right.
or my food or whatever? I'm just
Right.
like, I don't take pictures
For
all
your
the
type
time.
of thing, I could see Facebook working better.
Yeah, and I like I'm playing with LinkedIn. Like
Okay, interesting.
I'm
yeah.
new over there. I'm
Yeah.
just now starting to get into it, but
Okay.
But I'm thinking like those are people that are we're trying to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not
Yeah.
Facebook. We're burning time.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. We're on there because we want to get better.
Yes.
Yeah,
in
some
totally
way.
right. Okay. So they can get everything they need to if they just go to chancescoggins.com. That's with two G's, right?
2 G's.
So yeah, they can do that. Well, man, thank you so much.
Bro.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming up here.
This was good,
I did
man.
not expect to be leaving this conversation feeling so much better about the day than it began. Really, this is not an expectation of mine.
Dude, well, I'm really glad. I appreciate you taking the leap and inviting me. Like,
Yeah.
thanks for reaching out. And I didn't expect, one, that we'd talk so long.
Yeah.
And two, that it would be so compelling. Like, I
Yeah.
really appreciated the exchange. I thought it was great. I hope people watch, and I hope that I hope everybody made it to the end, because
Hopefully.
there was good stuff all the way
Absolutely,
through.
there was.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you again so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
brother.
it. It was an
Appreciate
honor.
you. Thanks.